Hello there. It's good to be here with Amanda again to talk about parenting. We're going to discuss from what we have already talked about in Proverbs about parenting. We started in Psalm 127 to discuss a parent's role. That was written by Solomon. He there encompasses what seems like an overview of his understanding of the parent's role, and you see that worked out in the Proverbs. And I think that's how I tried to convey this, was that it all kind of flowed out of that idea and from the command to honor your father and your mother and the promise accompanied with that we discussed in Ephesians. And so all of it sort of works out of those ideas. And so we began with understanding your parents' role, and we took that from Psalm 127, specifically verses 3 and 4, where parents are equipping their children and sending them out.
I thought about the opposite of what you talked about, where if I want my child to function well in society, then I'm going to teach them to do their own laundry. I'm going to teach them to cook. I'm going to teach them how to clean. But on the flip side of that, as a child or as a student, teenager, if you want to remain dependent on your parents and have mommy do your laundry, then by all means, be frustrated when they try to teach you these things. It's like they're teaching you these things so that you can be independent. How pathetic is it when you see grown men taking their laundry home to mom? It's pretty pathetic. You need to grow up and be independent. I'm not looking at you. I do your laundry, but it's just because he doesn't fold it right. So.
I do remember doing my laundry when I was in college, and it was not I didn't do it. Okay, everything was washed cold. It was all washed together in as few loads as possible. But I guess I still got the job done.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So when your parents have you make dinner or do these, it actually takes a lot more work to teach somebody how to do a chore and to stomach the frustration of watching them do parts of it wrong but not wanting to discourage you than it does to just do it yourself. They actually want to create independent people. So accept that as a blessing from your parents that they're willing to teach you.
Right. And so it goes with these life skills that are found within the Proverbs, their discussion. We're going to talk about money next week, and money ends up being a part of it. I'm sure your parents have talked to you about money and a wise way to use and spend your money and those sorts of things. These are parents trying to equip you so that you can be sent out into the world and able to do that. But it also has to do with your behavior. If you're going to be, if you're angry and you fly off the handle all the time, hopefully they're doing something about that. And if they are preparing you to live out in the world, in a place where you will occasionally get angry.
Right. And we have instance with our kids when they get rough with each other and angry. And I've actually said to them before, the reason I have to teach you to control your emotions now is because if you do what you just did when you're an adult, it's called assault and you get in big trouble. So you need to learn these things when you're young and the consequences are not as severe.
Right. So as parents, the goal, the parent's role is to be a person who is sending their child out. They're working toward that and trying to get you there. And part of that is the rod of discipline. And we talked about discipline was more than just spankings. And most teenagers are not getting spankings. They're getting other things like groundings and those sorts of things. You're not being sat in timeout either like little kids get. Usually it's something else. And this is used for our good. They're molding and shaping you as an arrow being sent out again. Psalm 127 there.
How many grown-ups have you seen that fly off the handle or they don't know how to handle conflict and their parents didn't teach them those things? So it pays dividends in your later in life when you don't know how to do those things. So when your parent gets upset with you because of your tone of voice, that used to be a big thing in my teen years, was it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it, But as an adult, I totally get that. I come across other adults and I'm like, it's really not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it, So, and I'm sure my tone isn't always top-notch, but, we're all a work in progress, I suppose.
Yep, and a parent has this responsibility to do that because of you might say, the office they hold. They are your parent. There's a role that they have there as your parent. And that office or that role means that we are supposed to have a reverence toward them. We talked about obeying them. We're supposed to obey them, and reverence them is what it means to honor our father and our mother. And we live in an irreverent society. We don't live in a society that really has a lot of reverence or shows a lot of reverence to people when we should. And it's just not practiced in our society. Even in our household, we don't require our children to say yes, sir, and no, sir. But there's a great benefit to doing that. There's a great benefit to that being done in society. I'm not saying it's good or wrong or anything like that to not require it or to require it. But what I am saying is there is a reverence that is due to parents. We revere them because of the office they hold. They are mom and dad, and so they have earned that and they deserve that.
And our society at large does not, like you just said, but think about the TV shows you watch and how kids rebelling against their parents is funny. It is expected. Or the dad being a downright idiot is just the norm. Or the mom being the one to dupe, is the norm. So it's really interesting that the media that we ingest works against that as well.
Right. So it's difficult to have this sort of this understanding of honoring our father and our mother. Like she was saying, media, television, all sorts of things are telling us that that teenagers are supposed to be disobedient and irreverent toward their parents, but Scripture says quite the opposite. And in fact, the person who is that way, we read the passage this week about having their eyes plucked out by ravens in a field because it leads to something horrible. And that is what the Proverbs is saying. What Solomon is getting at there with that is that as a general rule, the person who is dishonoring their father and their mother finds themselves in a bad way. They find themselves on the path of death and the opposite way of being prosperous. They find themselves in a really hard position.
And the idea of being 18 and an adult, therefore you don't have to listen anymore, that's very prevalent in our society. And it's almost like, okay, you want to be 18 and an adult, do you want the full weight of that? It's just because, you can, well, I guess you can't even buy cigarettes anymore at 18. You can vote and you can enlist in the military. Does not mean that you are ready to be independent and out from under your parents' wings. Right. So parents and their children, it's a delicate balance. And I think there's growing pains in every family of trying to figure out how for the parent to let go and the child to take on more responsibility. But what really cements that in the parent's ability to do that is a child that respects them and has taken on, understood their parents' role and become more independent by doing these chores and these activities that the parent is trying to teach them. Let the parent mold your character. And if you do these things, the parent has the trust and a reason to start letting go and giving you more independence because they know that you'll do the right thing.
Right. If you could chart it out somehow, there's an interesting way that this works to where if you have a chart, you start at the bottom. I guess I should start at the bottom like this. And you start at the bottom of the chart, and at the bottom of the chart, you are doing nothing for yourself, and your parents are doing everything. When you were a baby, Mom and Dad had to feed you because you couldn't feed yourself. Mom and Dad had to change your diaper because you couldn't go to the bathroom on your own. Mom and Dad had to dress you because you couldn't dress yourself. As time goes by, when you're younger, you start learning how to do these things. You learn how to feed yourself. You learn how to do this. Mom and Daddy are teaching you these things. And they are teaching you how to live, how to eat on your own, how to dress yourself, how to go to the bathroom. All these things are taught by Mom and Dad. And as time goes by, you are given more and more responsibility. Parents are teaching you to do more and more things, and you're doing more and more things on your own. There's going to come a point where you're doing everything on your own. So what is the role of the parent then? Really, it's more of a counselor. So there comes an end point in this where you're still honoring your father and your mother. It's still there, but they are no longer teaching you how to do everything. In fact, you're doing everything on your own, but they are still there the life you live, good or bad, still reflects upon them, and you want to be a person who honors your father and your mother, no matter where you are on that graph.
Right.
So,
yeah. And learning from what your parents have been through. We've made plenty of mistakes, and it just pains us to try and mold you and save you from those hardships that we experienced. And so many have to learn the hard way. It's like, it just hurts.
Right. We've had multiple occasions where we've talked to students and things about the hardships we've gone through because of the dumb mistakes we've made.
Right.
And that's the situation your parents are in. Your parents have been there and lived that. Sometimes they've made good decisions and they tell you the benefits of it. Sometimes they've made bad decisions and they tell you the damage that was done. And you need to learn from that.
Yeah.
You need to learn from their experiences. We said at the beginning of this that the idea in Proverbs is to learn and live rather than live and learn. And if you will learn from your parents, you don't have to go through the mistakes they went through. Or you can learn from their successes as well, and there's a benefit there as well. Not only that, they've lived long enough to see, hopefully, Scripture's wisdom play out, and they can help teach you those things as well.
So by respecting them, hopefully it will make you value their experiences and their opinions more, because there's no sense learning the hard way.
Yep.
The lesson sticks more, I think, but instead of letting the lesson stick with bad memories and bad choices, let the lesson stick because of your reverence towards your parents, and they said that this is highly unwise, so I'm not going to do it.
Right. Very good. All right. Well, I think that's everything. And we will be back soon to talk about Proverbs and money, because Solomon talks a lot about money in the book of Proverbs. So we'll do that next week.
All right, bye, guys.